Bitcoin prices dropped. Oh no, what's happening? Let's talk about that in this video. We've had a bit of a Bitcoin flash crash. We saw the price drop significantly. Let's do a refresh here. It actually looks like it's popped back up a little bit. Yeah, it looks like it's coming back up a little bit. And hopefully it will, well, you know, if you follow my channel, you know it doesn't make any difference to me. I'm buying Bitcoin. One of the things I talked about yesterday, the price was at, we were at 9,945, almost $10,000 in the past 24 hours. The price came all the way down and it came to 9,500. So we lost almost $500 in the past 24 hours. Let's talk about what happened. Let's talk about why that happened. We were over $10,000 and now we're back down. And if you saw my video yesterday about how to buy Bitcoin, I'm sorry, when is the right time to buy Bitcoin, I believe was the title of it. If you go back, I'll post that video above, but I discussed not getting emotional. And I want you to know that this is something that if you've followed the advice in that video, then this isn't totally unexpected because you've kind of done your research, you understand the economic environment that we're in, you understand where we're at with Bitcoin. Let's talk about what's happened and why the price has gone down. First, let's go back here. I want you to listen to this video. Sorry, I don't have my microphone hooked up, so this may not be the best quality, but just listen to this video because it's very, very important. If you're in the cryptocurrency space at all, you want to listen to this. And the reason I want to play this video is because I'm going to start to make a case here. When this video first came out, I talked about it last year, but a lot of cryptocurrency YouTubers were like, "Oh, this is good. That's what we need. We need regulation in Bitcoin. We need them to regulate it." And then the market's going to go up and it's going to somehow lead to mass adoption, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But let's just take a listen to this video.
What about Bitcoin? Are you comfortable with that currency, and what do you think that U.S. government should do about it? Should we encourage it, discourage it?
Do you own any? Is that
I actually don't.
Okay.
I don't own any of it.
I just wanted to check.
No, I own no Bitcoin. I don't even know what it is really, but...
Okay, so by the way, first problem, please, this is so good. Anytime you watch news headlines, it's important to understand that those anchors, and in this case, the gentleman doing this question, that was not his question. Someone gave him that question to ask, which is very fascinating. So it makes you wonder, like, what is the purpose in this question? The purpose is to benefit the audience or shape the audience or move the audience, the listeners, in some way. But nonetheless, the gentleman doesn't even know about Bitcoin. Yes, he's asking this question. Sorry, I just thought that was interesting. Thought it was worth pointing out.
Though I know I missed the boat on that, but is that something that you're worried about that could replace the dollar as a currency? And
so, I mean, first let me say, we are very focused on cyber currencies, crypto, what do you call them, cryptocurrencies, cyber currencies. We're very focused on this. And actually at the last FSOC meeting that I chaired, we set up a working group. We're working with all the regulators. So really the biggest issue, I have two issues with them that we're focused on. One is we want to make sure that bad people cannot use these currencies to do bad things. So in the United States, and people may not realize this, under our laws, if you have...
The problem with that statement right there, bad people do bad things, is they keep demonizing, they demonize oftentimes Bitcoin when they say that. But if people were going to do bad things, they would use something like Monero primarily. But again, the world's not using Bitcoin or Monero or cryptocurrency to launder money. Like if it was, the market cap would be astronomical. So that's not actually happening on any large scale yet. But anyway, let's just keep listening to what he says here because this is important for specifically those, it's important for you to see government's intentions.
Realize this, under our laws, if you have a wallet to own Bitcoins, that company has the same obligation as a bank to know your customer. So in the United States, we have rules that for money laundering, for all different types of things, we can track those activities.
So they always put this under the guise of money laundering, by the way. And if you think that I'm skeptical of government, I absolutely am. I respect government. I think government is needed and necessary, but I'm always skeptical of the intentions of government because the intentions oftentimes conflict with your freedom as an individual. So here's the thing. They're saying that it's always for money laundering, etc. But what it also does is it lets the government know everything that you're doing. If you've ever wondered how come it's so difficult for Americans to buy with a credit card or debit card, it's because the government will not allow. Well, one more thing that you may not realize is it's difficult for Americans to open a bank account in another country. A lot of people, a lot of citizens in the world can open a bank account in a different country. It's not super difficult, but it's very difficult for Americans to open bank accounts in other countries because the country that you open a bank account into, if they're going to interact with American companies at all, they have to follow the KYC, know your customer. In other words, know who your customer is, know what they're doing, know what's going on with their account, know your customer laws. So that's why when you go to use Coinbase or you go to use Binance and they start asking for your photo ID, et cetera, that's a lot of people think that's somehow for their protection so they can, know your ID. No. That's a hurdle to business. It would not require customers to do that. It's because the government forces them to comply by KYC laws, know your customer laws. That's why Americans have a hard time already buying Bitcoin. But let's keep going.
The rest of the world doesn't have that. So one of the things we will be working very closely with the G20 on is making sure that this doesn't become the Swiss numbered bank accounts. And then we do that. The other concern I have is...
So that is, in my opinion, bearish news when he says the rest of the world, we want the rest of the world at the G20, basically the top 20 largest economies in the world, essentially. Basically, we want them to basically have similar guidelines as far as KYC, know your customer laws when it comes to Bitcoin. That's an enormous hurdle for other people to use traditional finance. This is the bank's way of helping slow down or even prevent mass adoption. But that's okay. Keep in mind, when a lot of people saw this, they put a positive spin on it in the crypto space because it was about protecting you against a scam. You can never protect people against their own gullibility. Never. People are going to make mistakes. Law enforcement regulations are always enforced after the crime has been committed. It's almost impossible to stop crime when people are willing to commit it. Let's continue.
There's a lot of speculation in this. And, I want to make sure that consumers who are trading this understand the risks because, I am concerned that consumers could get hurt.
So let's make sure consumers understand the risk. Here's how I interpret this. This is like a lot of your regulations in the finance sector. So you have to be, if there's an investment that is not registered with the SEC, Securities Exchange Commission, which is an enormous hurdle. Most of the investments that get registered with the SEC, they're large companies who own those investments, like your mutual funds. Basically, the large financial system provides products, it can afford to meet all the regulations to provide investment products for John Doe on the street, on Main Street. But the rest of the world, when you have, basically $1 million net worth, it's not quite that high, but you have $1 million net worth and above, you can be an accredited investor. And therefore, you, as an accredited investor, you can invest in all sorts of stuff that the average Main Street investor can't by law, which means there are certain opportunities. Yes, there's certain risk, but the biggest opportunities always come with the most risk. And when it comes to investing, so there's certain risk that you can't take on, that you can take on as an accredited investor, and therefore investments that you can get access to that can reap major rewards for you as an investor. But as John Doe on Main Street, average U.S. citizen or average citizen of the world, if this guy has his way about it, this is the Treasury Secretary of the U.S., if he has his way about it, you're not going to be able to do that with Bitcoin at all. That's what he's saying right here. He's saying that he basically is worried about the average investor getting hurt. There's no way, there's absolutely no way to prevent that from happening, particularly in an environment like Bitcoin. There's no way for the government to prevent that from happening outside of just good education. But the government school systems never even teach you to balance your bank account. So do you think they're going to teach you to educate yourself on the risk of cryptocurrency? Of course not. Their answer is regulation, preventing mass adoption, preventing the little guy, the average person, from getting access to a market that has been the greatest performing asset class, at least probably in the past century. Okay, so we'll move along. So what does this have to do with the current crash? Well, lo and behold, this. Blow to Bitcoin, this is as of February 16th, a significant U.S. crypto crackdown suddenly revealed. So when everybody was saying, hey, this is probably positive, we need good regulations, yada, 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 I'm telling you right now, you don't want government regulations. For the most part, they're not good for the average citizen. The U.S. Bitcoin and cryptocurrency community has had a rough week, and its future is looking bleak. This week, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin warned significant new Bitcoin and cryptocurrency regulations are on their way. Minneapolis Federal Reserve President Neil Kashkari branded cryptocurrencies a giant garbage dumpster, and the Department of Justice called Bitcoin mixing a crime. If you know what that is, Bitcoin mixer, oh my goodness. All it does is protect your privacy. What a Bitcoin mixer is for Bitcoin is what a VPN is for your internet connection. All Bitcoin mixing does is allow you to send Bitcoin to an address. A mixer charges you a fee. They mix up your Bitcoins to hide your privacy so no one can trace it back to your private key. And now they're calling it it should be a crime to use a Bitcoin mixer because they want to know where all your transactions are going through chain analysis. However, the news has failed to move the Bitcoin market price. That's not true. The price moved a lot after this article. Mnuchin, who last year echoed U.S. Donald Trump's criticism of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, told the Senate Finance Committee the U.S. Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN, is preparing significant new requirements around cryptocurrencies and will be seeing a lot of work coming out very quickly. We want to make sure that technology moves forward, but on the other hand, we want to make sure that the cryptocurrencies aren't used for the equivalent of old Swiss numbered bank accounts, Mnuchin said, adding that FinCEN and the Treasury Department more broadly are spending a lot of time on this. By the way, this line right here, someone has told him this polls well with people when they hear it. This is a manufactured line. We want to make sure that the cryptocurrencies aren't used for the equivalent of old Swiss numbered bank accounts. Almost every interview that he does, when he talks about Bitcoin, he says this. Almost every interview. The reason he says this is because somebody has polled this. They do polls on stuff like this. And they've done a poll and they realized that the average John Q. public hears that. And they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Oh, I get it. That makes sense. Oh, I'm not doing anything wrong, so I shouldn't care. It's just like when people say, I don't care that the government is spying on me, watching what I'm doing on the internet, listening to my phone calls. I don't care as long as, I don't care because I'm not doing anything wrong. That's not what it's about. It's about protecting your freedom, your privacy. That's what it's about. So when he says this, most people are like, oh, okay, I'm not doing anything wrong. It doesn't matter to me. So let's listen to another interview that this guy did just to tell you how anti-crypto he is. And I'm going to tell you my thoughts on going forward. What am I planning with my own cryptocurrency investments? Not financial advice to you, but I'll let you know what I'm doing going forward. And I'm doing two main things. So let's go take a look at this. I want to shout out to Altcoin Daily. You can go check out his channel. He had this video. I was trying to find it. I couldn't find it anywhere, but I found it on his channel when he talked about it back when it happened, I guess in December. So let's listen to what this guy says. This is going to blow your mind. Most news anchors are reading off of a teleprompted script, but every now and again, news is a little bit ad lib, meaning they kind of sometimes add in their own questions or comments. And when you watch this news anchor's expressions, you realize he thinks, huh? What? Are you actually saying that? And this Steve Mnuchin guy says it with an absolute straight face. And there for a minute, I always feel like these news anchors are the most influenced because they're reading the news all the time, right? Like they're as far as influenced by mainstream opinions. And then you see this guy thinking, huh? That doesn't make sense. Take a look at this. It's priceless.
Check this out.
We'd have a problem if we decided every time that cash itself or any other form of currency, every time it's used for some nefarious activities, if we weren't going to use it anymore. I'm not sure that maybe it's a little easier at this point in the technology for certain illicit activities, but that can't be the reason, to say you're not going to use something. We wouldn't even use cash then, because cash is laundered all the time and used for nefarious That's all we've ever used for nefarious activities, and we certainly had plenty of them.
I don't think that's accurate at all, that cash is laundered all the time. We have the strongest AML system in
That was awesome. Did you see his facial expression? We got to back up and see that one more time. That was awesome.
all the cash is laundered all the time. We have the strongest AML system in the world. You know, we just came back from FATF, where on a global basis, they've agreed to implement money laundering. I think, as you know, we use sanctions tools. So we combat bad actors in the U.S. dollar every day to protect the U.S. financial system. And all we're saying is
There's been a lot of nefarious activities historically, and it's never involved Bitcoin. So obviously, it's been pretty successfully done with cash. That's all I'm saying. Unless you think there hasn't been.
I don't think it's been successfully done with cash. I'll push back on that. And we're going to make sure that Bitcoin doesn't become the equivalent of Swiss-numbered bank accounts, which were obviously a real risk.
You see that Swiss numbered bank accounts? He said that again. And he's trying to say that cash has never been laundered. It's absolutely absurd. And that's really the problem with their argument when they talk about things like money laundering. The U.S. dollar is currently and has historically always been the #1 financial instrument in the world for laundering money. In the world. So that argument doesn't make sense. But again, that is a way to push regulations in the public square, meaning when the public is listening, and it makes sense to the public who is unaware. But I think this is actually good news, and there's something to pull out of this. I believe long term this is good news, and that's because I believe, if you've watched my channel at all, you know that I believe Bitcoin is going to $1 million or more. I literally think that's going to happen one day. Not financial advice for you. I'm just a Bitcoin enthusiast, Bitcoin evangelist, YouTuber, not a financial expert. But I do believe that's going to happen. And I'll post a video up here where I recently talked about the math of that and how it could happen. Here's the challenge. Here's why I think this is good news. I think it's good news because it lets us know that we're in very early. Because when this news came out, the price went down. And it went down because right now the vast majority of the people who are buying cryptocurrency are buying it as some sort of speculative asset, but they don't really believe in the fundamentals yet. Why should you own Bitcoin? Because it's impossible for the government to truly stop it. Yes. Sonny Decree commented on this on his YouTube channel. Shout out to Sonny. And he talked about, this is probably FUD because the government can't actually stop you. Yes, they can almost stop you. And that's enough to tank the price by more than 90%. The U.S. government can stop banks from, they can make Coinbase go out of business with a stroke of a pen. That's all it takes. And then it becomes very difficult to buy cryptocurrency. Yes, you can buy it from local Bitcoin or whatever, but you still run risk because it's going to be like dealing drugs. They already have people who are undercover acting as buyers and sellers on local Bitcoin, and trying to catch people exchanging money without a license. Essentially, you can buy but you can't sell large amounts, and they're already trying to catch people. So they can significantly hurt the transaction of transacting of Bitcoin. But can they fully put it out of business? Can they get rid of it? Can they roll back time and make Satoshi uninvent it? No, absolutely not. Can they take your cryptocurrency from you? They can threaten you by force. They can threaten you, but there's no one who can physically take it from you. As long as you have your private keys in your possession, nobody can get access to your Bitcoin, as opposed to your bank account. If you get behind on your taxes, or for whatever reason you get your wages garnished or your bank account garnished, they can just pull money out of your bank account. They can prevent the money from almost hitting your bank account. And as soon as it hits, it gets sucked out. And you can't touch it. You can't do anything about it. But Bitcoin's not like that. Nobody can pull money out of your Bitcoin wallet without access to your private keys. It is unconfiscatable, which is one of the largest unrealized use cases for it right now as a cryptocurrency or as a currency. So we saw something like this happen with gun regulation, except we saw the public take a very different stance. So when the news comes out about Bitcoin being negative and government regulations, the price drops. Why? Because right now we're not in a place where people feel like they need to own Bitcoin for their security. But when President Obama got into office and he talked about cracking down on guns and gun legislation, You could almost not even buy 22 bullets at Walmart. They were sold out. Gun sales went through the roof because everybody was buying them because they were fearful of the government stopping their freedom of being able to own a weapon or a firearm. Even basic firearms, like even basic ammunition, like 22 bullets, you literally couldn't get it. If you found them, they were 3 or 4 times higher than what they typically were because they were in such short supply. There will come a time, I believe, at some point in the future, when the government talks about regulating cryptocurrency or Bitcoin, that the price will go up. And the price will go up because people want to own it. And quite honestly, that's where I'm at right now. I'm. If you saw my video, you know that yesterday, one of my methods is dollar cost averaging. I'm absolutely dollar cost averaging. The other method, and this is the most valuable method, is creating passive streams of cryptocurrency. Earning cryptocurrency through affiliate marketing and passive streams of income that don't necessarily rely on affiliate marketing. I am putting an email out today to my newsletter. I'm actually putting it up in my email passive profits course. I'm going to be putting an email out today talking about some of my favorite passive income streams. And then and I'm just doing that for now until I roll out the full course, which I'm working on the full course. I got about 40 days of it completed. It's an email course that will go out every day, every other day. But I've got about 40 or so days of it completed, but I'm still working on it. But I feel like I said it in yesterday's video, but this creates even more urgency for me to feel like I need to get this out right away so people can at the very least start earning some passive cryptocurrency, start creating a passive cryptocurrency stream of income. So if you want to get that email, be sure to subscribe down below to the Crypto Passive Profit Strategy newsletter in the description. If you believe in cryptocurrency and you believe in financial freedom for everyone, be sure to hit the subscribe button on this video, hit that thumbs up icon, and let me know what are your thoughts on the future of Bitcoin down in the comments. Thank you so much.